Ready to roll? Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, go ahead and see if. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year. We have a full meeting today, so I'd like to go ahead and get started and get moving along. A lot of meaty topics on the agenda. I'd like to call the meeting of the Audit Committee to order for January 17th, 2025. And the first order of action, I'd like to ask our interpreter to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are, click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. And then for those of us on the audit committee that doing something a little new today because we now have a new board policy mandate of including the tribal acknowledgement as part of our meetings. So we will start with that, which is I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region has historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From 4 cultural groups, the Kumaya, the Digueño, the Luispeño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla, this land is nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and the experiences of undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, now can we do a quorum check?
We do have quorum.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and move on to the agenda. As per normal, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very full agenda today. So in order to do our best to try to make it through it, the public speaking time that I am allocating is as follows: 2 minutes for item 1, 1 minute for item 2 and 3, 2 minutes for item 4, 1 minute for item 5, and then 2 minutes for 6, 7, and 8. That's what I'm currently planning. If we start running short, we may have to shorten, running long, we may have to shorten some of those speaking times as well. With that, Cami, can we have any non-agenda public comment speakers?
Yes, we have 2 in-person speakers. When I call your name, please come to the mic. Cesar Javier will be our first speaker.
May we request that my wife speaks first, Your Honor?
Yes, the first speaker will be Parita Javier.
Good afternoon. Ceramics manufacturing and kiln industrial activity, a home occupation permitted to operate at 5238 Streamview Drive, San Diego, California 92105, a neighborhood designated residential zone had been an environment air pollution problem since 1984. Science, through research and studies, explains the hazards of ceramics, specifically the repetitive burning and baking. Okay. Clay finished with chemicals produces highly toxic gases, environment, quality air that sustain life, allowing the continued operation of ceramics manufacturing in a residential zone is in violation of the following. Number one, California land use and planning laws on variance provides that the use of land must be in accord with health, safety, and public welfare. Moreover, the law is specific, no special privilege. Number two, California environment and land use laws and nuisance such as toxicity, dust, smoke.
Thank you. Your time has expired. The next speaker will be Caesar, followed by our online speaker, number ending in 731.
Thank you, leadership of SANDAG, CPG Skyline, District 4 of the City of San Diego called me Uncle Cesar because of the controversial governance of our issue, a basic issue, a vital issue on human survival we call oxygen. For those who have blood pressure beyond the normal, you need clean oxygen, you need clean water, you need clean food, you need clean and safe neighborhood. This business is in violation, specifically the substance, the lifetime guard, which is the air we breathe. That's the number one essence, the substance of that act in 1970 for the government to ensure that human will have a clean air, not what the Air Pollution Control District is doing, governing to ensure that we have that vital survival element. Look at the structure, look at the money, look at the ideologies of those people running, governing that institution with its mission to bring about clean air, oxygen throughout lifetime for the rich and the have-nots. We are the have-nots and we are deprived.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Speaker on or guest caller ending in 731. You may now speak. You are self-muted.
All right, hey everybody, it's Truth. I'm here to be politically correct or just saying what I know to be true, which can often offend people. That's their own problem. Didn't it feel good to do the pledge to the Republic, of course, not to the democracy? I have a question. Why does Courtney love long titles of items? That's very important. So for the audit and investigation recommendation and corrective action plan status report, how about calling it the CAPSTAT? I like short names. It's much easier. And if anyone asks, just hand them a piece of paper. They can figure it out. And for the record, there was one fun meeting when talking about non-charismatic and non-persistent Zito's lack of shirt options. I almost made Drucker laugh. I don't know if anybody noticed. That is so rare. That's got to be worth something. Maybe a Drive Anywhere shirt. I might have earned that. And I love that Agnes previously brought up the taboo subject of the mystery minutes, whereas Paul has said before that all the juicy parts are omitted. That actually changed. And so I gave Agnes credit, just for the record, along with Melanie Burkholder from Carlsbad. SANDAG's basically the only jurisdiction in the county that omits what the board members talk about. But then again, you know, SANDAG's pretty well known for omitting facts and records and data and science, common sense, and even funding for their various pipe dreams. And, you know, that is actually where the audit committee comes into play and kind of puts people in their place on the facts. And I do appreciate that. I have a question. Are today's meaty topics vegetarian friendly by chance? Asking for a friend. And I actually didn't research this agenda today. I don't have time. I got a lot of stuff going on, but I am going to listen. And I'll just say this for the public record. The county's survey about and CDC about the status of the sewage crisis just came out, and it's kind of as expected. Nobody trusts the county and their information. Imagine that. 43%, I believe, don't trust what the county says.
Thank you.
There
Your
you go,
time
just for
has
the record.
expired. Chair, we do have one more person who has raised their hand online. Would you like to allow them?
Sure.
Blair Beekman, you may now speak. You are self-muted.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. I'm guessing this is initial public comment time, non-agenda public comment time. Thanks, I'm a little late. Thank you for very much taking my hand. I mentioned in the previous Transportation Committee meeting a reminder that with all the craziness with the fire issues in LA, it's been a very sad event. Good luck how we can continue to practice responsible practices and accountable practices here in San Diego. We really have to be practicing those things. And if we do, if we continue those good efforts and not fall into the, well, everything's gone crazy, so let's act crazy, you know, scenario, that it's very tempting to do, and I do it too. If we don't do that, you know, stay steady. It'll be important at this time. I think it will then give good examples to LA, what they really need right now. They need good examples. So good luck in all of our efforts towards better example. And just decency in how we do our things. We don't have to do things crazy. And it's an important lesson to learn. Yeah, at the transportation meeting today, there was also a few words about the future of tunneling the way through the future of the Purple Line. So that was first really introduced today. Good luck in how that effort can be talked about more. I did consider that that help lessen much eminent domain and real estate purchasing. So it is good for that, but there is safety factors that I hope can be more talked about and its relation within the area. And thank you for the words of the truth, talking about vegetarian items on our menus. We practice, you know, vegetable eating instead of meat eating. I think it does a lot to save the planet. And certainly as a transportation agency, we should be concerned with such.
Thank you. Your time has expired, and that concludes our non-member, non-agenda topics.
Thank you.
Speakers.
Yeah, heard loud and clear. I will try to avoid the meat terminology for future metaphors. Any committee member comments, non-agenda comments? Seeing none. Was there something you want? Oh, yes, Agnes.
You turn it green. Okay, all right, got it. I'm not sure if it's considered on agenda item. I do want to bring back up the minutes, you know, how the minute is prepared. I think we had this conversation last meeting, also during public comment, that the current minute is actually so brief. It really doesn't have much information other than saying we discussed this item. And I know that, Dave, you explained that's how the board minute, has moved towards. I think at the time I think someone made a suggestion, at least add the stamp the time on the minute, so we know, okay, if we talk about this, someone want to go back, they can find it rather than have to watch the whole thing. And I don't think that has happened yet, so I just want to bring it back up. And I still would like to, ideally, we don't have to document everything we talked about, but if it's something, even if it's not an action item that we voted on, but we ask someone to follow up on something, I really would like to see it to be recorded in a minute so we can hold all of us accountable, right? Because otherwise, it's really hard to remember, what we agree to do or not going forward.
Thanks. I don't know if you wanted to address that, Mario, because I know the board minutes are already changing a little bit.
And just want to let you know, we're in the process of the clerk's office changing. Tessa retired and we will be getting in 2 weeks, our new clerk for the agency. We have also revamped the organizational structure over the clerk's office so we can address as many things as being requested. We do have a running list of items that are requested at the board meetings. We should have the same thing happening with the different policy advisory committees and different working groups. So give us some time and we'll be working on those. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll
Thank
keep bringing it up until
Keep,
it's done.
yes, please,
Okay,
keep
thank
us
you.
honest.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for the topic. Anybody else? Otherwise, we will go ahead and move on to item number 2, the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor Activities. Courtney.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's good to be back with everyone. I'm Courtney Ruby. I'm the Independent Performance Auditor. And right off the bat, I have the great honor to introduce Michelle Ludwig. She is our newest member of OIPA. She is our new Principal Independent Auditor. She started on December 3rd. Michelle is an experienced auditor with over 20 years in the field. She's an expert in internal controls and is a certified internal auditor and certified government auditing professional. She's led internal and external audits, both state and local government, including San Diego County. In addition to performance audits, she's led and participated in IT, compliance, financial audits throughout her career. Michelle is committed to fostering leadership in auditing. She's currently serving on the board of directors of the Institute of Internal Auditors, the San Diego chapter, and she was the former president of that chapter, regional treasurer, and the director of volunteering for the AAI International Conference in Los Angeles. So it's just a great honor to have her join the team and want you all to get to know her. She's gonna be here just for a few minutes and because she's already busy at work on one of our audits. Michelle, do you want to just say hi?
First, let me say thank you for.
Go ahead, please speak into a mic so the
Mike.
people online can hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm new to this. I just wanted to say thank you for the introduction. It's very nice to meet you. I'm so excited to join the team under Courtney's leadership, and I look forward to the great things we're going to do.
Welcome, Michelle, and we're looking forward to all the great things you're going to do as well, because there's a lot of them to do. Was that it, Courtney?
And then just a couple other things in relation to updates. You have the ethical climate survey that we're going to go over today. So of course, we've been busy on that. We're also busy in relation to RFPs. I've just completed the review of the independent financial assessment proposals. So we'll be working on our interview process. With that, we've got the legal RFP for independent legal services has been let out. So we're expecting proposals back in the next couple of weeks. We also will be contracting an independent whistleblower hotline third-party provider. That's in the works. Our audits of HNTB and Sole Source are moving forward fast and very well. And then we're going to talk about some of the work we've been doing in relation to the grand jury that we're going to have that conversation today. So that just gives you an idea of our activities.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and move into public comment. I would just like to remind the public, this part of the agenda is the time where we request that you try to keep your comments on the agenda topic, and we would all appreciate that if possible. And please keep any comments respectful as well. Cami, please go ahead and call the first public commenter.
Yes, we have one in-person public commenter. Cesar Javier, would you like to come up and speak?
Uncle Caesar, ours is not to condemn. Ours is just like a treatment plan. We are the chemicals to offer, to purify action of governance. I will relate this to the city address yesterday at 3 p.m. In our assessment as chemicals, purifiers of sewage, byproduct of clean water process, it's a lie. The audit team declared that the cause of deficit is governance. And there is a list of failures: homelessness, environmental injustice failures, etc., etc. Let's
Thank you. Your time has expired. That we do have one speaker online who just raised their hand. Would you like to allow them?
Sure.
Blair Beekman, you may now speak. You are self-muted.
All right, Blair Beekman again. Sorry, as a clarifying question, is this the time for meeting minutes or just item number 2?
This
For public
is for
comment.
item number 2 for the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor's activities.
Okay, I will wait for the next item to speak on meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments.
Thank you. Any board member comments, questions? Okay. We will then go ahead and move on to item number 3, which is consent, is just the meeting minutes. There is no presentation here. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
Yes, we have one in-person speaker and one speaker online. When I call your name, please come to the microphone. Cesar Javier.
consistency, like a sailor. Row, row your boat, gently downstream you drive. West bank of Choyas Creek, deprived of clean and safe neighborhood, declared by CDC Heights, District 9, poor neighborhood. The 2 minutes in public agenda, non-agenda item is not enough to our deprivation of justice. It's not enough to stand here every time you have meeting, but it's consistency and repetition, a revered learning dictum. We are here to help our government. We are here as the white blood in our system, the antibiotic system, because governance
Thank you. Your
is
time has
like
expired. The next speaker will be Blair Beekman. Blair, you may now speak. You are self-muted.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I think I'm going to wait till items 5 and 6 to speak on my current public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, great. So we are now moving into the report section. Oh, sorry, we do need a yeah, we do need a motion. Thanks, Amberlyn. Anybody interested in moving approval for the minutes or needing a change?
I move to accept the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes by Piggy Forrest. Do I have a second? Second by Dorsey. Are we doing these votes or verbal votes? Okay, we're using the clickers. Remember, 1 is yes, 2 is no, and 3 is abstain. Come on. Mine doesn't, I think my battery's dead. So there's nothing on the screen. Yeah, I'll do that. So can we just, I will verbally vote yes, and, or maybe it needs to be turned on. Okay. Thank you.
And that motion passes with all members present.
Great. Now we can move on to the report section. We are starting with the independent performance auditor's performance evaluation, and that's going to be a closed session to start. I will apologize to the public for starting with the closed session. I don't like to do that for meeting continuity, but this topic is about 2 months late, and it was very important that we get to it, so it was put first on the agenda. From a perspective of talking, we have 2 items on the performance evaluation. There's the closed session, item 4, and item 5. So I've allocated 2 minutes to item 4 for people to give us feedback. They go into closed session and then only 1 minute for item 5. So that allows people 3 minutes in total to talk about the performance evaluation. So they choose, should they choose. With that, can we go ahead and have any public speakers on item 4?
Yes, we have one public speaker in person.
I think he's walking out the door.
Yeah, I think there was some confusion. And we have one speaker online.
Okay, so the in-person speaker's not here. So
Okay, so Caesar has declined to speak on item number 4. We will move on to our online speaker, caller ending in 731. You may now speak.
All right, performance evaluation of the independent performance auditor. I believe that's Courtney Ruby. I should know that, right? Let's see. Thinking about it, as I've said before, I remember her taking all of the notes so many times. I'm sure she's got a long booklet of notes at this point, probably 3 books by now, because there's so much that happens just in one meeting. And I do appreciate that. I haven't seen anything bad. I've seen her listen to people. I've seen her listen to public comments, even if they're harsh or they're ridiculous. And that ridiculous can be good or bad. That's not necessarily negative, because I have ridiculous comments too all the time. And I'm assuming they're all positive, of course. But that's great to be able to accept feedback, rather it's positive or negative, because that's how you learn. That's what I do in a meeting. So I really have nothing bad to say. I'm not going to say that, oh, it's improved over a year's time, things are way better. I don't know. You guys know the inside more than me, but I've seen, it seems that she has pretty good relationships with everybody. My only recommendation would maybe be to talk to people more, to get more feedback from people or to see where they're at. But maybe that's happening behind the scenes and I don't know that. It probably is. So I could just give, if I was going to give a letter grade, it's going to be higher than Mario's. Oh, it's going to be an A, actually. So A for excellence. That doesn't really make sense, but that's what it's going to be, because I've seen nothing but good things. Congratulations. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
That concludes public comments.
Great, thank you for that. And with that, we will go ahead and move into closed session.
you just go to SANDAG Audit Committee and then get the agenda packet? Just Google it, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we are coming out of closed session. Amberlynn, would you like to report out?
Thank you, Chair. The Audit Committee met in closed session on item number 4, and there's no reportable action at this time.
Perfect, thank you. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to item 5, which is the open session portion of the Independent Performance Auditor's Annual Performance Review. And we will start off by taking any public comment on here, reminding folks that since we had 2 minutes before, there's only 1 minute on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have one in-person speaker and 2 speakers online. When I call your name, please come to the microphone. Cesar Javier.
Uncle Cesar, I would like to focus on the representative of the city of San Diego. This is all about this item, and to substantiate my observations and suggestions as public input. Our governance as related to this, a lesson is failing. And there are so many causes that are hidden, unpresented before the city address. Number 1, why was the selection on the 12th floor beyond the reach of the have-nots? We audit that, and it's true.
Thank you. Your time has expired. The first speaker will be caller ending in 731. You may now speak.
All right, I may have been accurate in my critique because the performance measure for communication and relationship development is the lowest category. I'm going to argue the part in the agenda where it alleges limited resources. SANDAG's been putting the people's tax dollars in the wrong location. That's the whole reason there's an audit team. The performance expectations are pretty good. Everyone at SANDAG should be following similar standards of conduct. The only thing not addressed is behavior. It references collaborative relationships, but not a positive or professional environment. Not that I've seen an issue. Excluding Courtney, it looks like the fraud examiners were certified very recently. And it's crazy to think I've read every single one of those audit reports. They were all necessary, but that's what every job here is about. Results, not words. Character, not show. And just because someone does a good job doesn't mean they deserve more money. They deserve something worth much more respect. That's what everyone at SANDAG should be striving for. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comments at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll go ahead and kick off this portion myself. I just wanted to state publicly, that my very much high appreciation of all the work, Courtney, that you've done this year, and in particular the collaborative approach that you've had with everybody that you work with. I think it's worth putting on the record that I've received multiple comments from people that you do work hard at maintaining your independence, but then you also work just as hard at maintaining your objectivity, and that your results and the things that you are looking for are largely how can we make the organization better. It's not to make people feel bad or make people feel better. It's just like, let's go find out what needs to be made, make the organization better. And that's what this organization needs. And so greatly appreciate that. I do want to, I think it's worth pointing out one of the comments that was made from the survey, just to give you an idea of what some of the people think as well, which is given the politically sensitive investigations that were immediately conducted and the workload required with minimal staff, Courtney has done an excellent job managing all of this while reorganizing and growing the OIPA in the process. And so that's been very good. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything before I make a motion of sorts. Okay, go ahead, Shanae.
So I want to completely agree with the chair's comments. And
and do want to recognize that you are not only building rapport, building trust, gaining and offering transparency to the public, but you are doing it in a way that is value added to the organization at large. So I just wanted to express that publicly.
I agree with what she said.
Very good. And yeah, so thank you for the contributions. This is also the part where we talk about compensation after discussion. Just putting on the record that there was 3% COLA that was given already, just so people understand that, and in July of this past year, and reflection of what the organization's pay increases were for the executive management. We feel that you should be better than that because you've done a very good job this year on a new year. And I would go ahead and make a motion that your compensation increase for the next year be a little bit higher than 1% and be moved to $267,000, which would be a little bit more than a 1% increase for the year. That's on top of the 3% COLA that's already been granted, and that should be retroactive back to your hire date. So that's the motion I would make. Any second or other comments?
I would second.
Second by Dorsey. Any other comments? Otherwise, please call for the vote.
And that motion passes with the members present.
Okay. So next year, we'll try to get this done on time, but thank you for all the work so far. We are now going to move on to item number 6, which is the OIPA's budget proposed for fiscal year 2026, and I will turn this over to Courtney.
Thank you. And I am going to introduce it, and then I'm going to have Emily Mullen, who is the Associate Administrative Analyst. She's going to walk through the slide presentation. So we are required 180 days before the budget is due to present our budget to the Audit Committee, and that's what we're doing today. So we'll go over any changes and explain what those are. And then, of course, discussion and answer your questions.
Good afternoon. We have a brief presentation. We don't have many line items in the OIPA budget, as you probably can see. The annual change is outlined here from the total budget. It's equivalent to 10.5%. That includes an escalation in some salaries, and then there were some corrections made to the amount that we spend annually on memberships, publications, and then training, and some new contracted services. This slide just shows a large detail, just a high-level view of our 2026 proposed budget. As you can see, we have a reduction in the amount of memberships and publications. We did that because we looked at prior fiscal years, what was actually spent on those things solely. And so for this upcoming year, we projected $1,940. That includes all of the current memberships that our individual auditors, the IPA, have, as well as our audit shop membership in the Association of Local Government Auditors. This year, in fiscal year 2025, we had a little bit over what we needed, and we used that excess budget to buy our audit time tracking software. But in the future, we'd like to break those out to more accurately reflect where that money is actually going. So that's why we have a couple new items this year. For our training program, there was a slight escalation. We wanted to appropriately include money for training and the travel required to get there. One of the things that the IPA would like to see is for the auditors to attend the Association of Local Government Auditors annual conference. And so we included that in our training budget for this upcoming fiscal year, and that would include travel. Our contracted services is broken out on the next slide. Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Contracted services for this upcoming fiscal year is going to include our legal services, which we are currently in the process of procuring. So that accounted for $20,000 next year. And then we also have our whistleblower hotline third-party hosted platform, and we allocated 6,000 for that based on the independent cost estimate that I prepared. And then finally, we have a software license that is actually reduced from the software that we had used prior that was running about $3,000 a year. We found an alternative software, and we've allocated 1,500 for that based on what it costs. And then this is broken down more into what the memberships and publications actually cost us and what we assume they will cost in the upcoming year, as well as what we are expecting to spend on training.
And then I'll just briefly touch on the organization chart. So this shows our current organization chart. You all approved, I had presented this in February of 2024, what we would look like going forward. You'll note that right now we have one position in recruitment and we have 2 vacancies, so we will be increasing our recruitment efforts in the spring. We had proposed, based on the presentation in February, that we would bring on 2 positions every year. And so I think right now we have brought on Michelle in December. And my hope would be that we would bring on at least 2 more before the end of the year. Depending on how recruitment goes, we have obviously these 3 positions that could be filled, but I think realistically, we'd probably bring on 2, and then would be hopeful that we would be in a position to continue to recruit 2 more next year. So that would be potentially moving one of these proposed positions to the next fiscal year, given our current staffing structure and vacancy levels. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. Go ahead with a quick question, then I'll go to public comment. So can I do that first? Yeah, if you can hold on to it, then yeah. Could we go ahead and take public comment coming?
Yes, we have 1 in-person public speaker and 2 online. Caesar, you are first, followed by Blair Beekman, and phone number ending in 731.
Cesar Javier, since the governance of SANDAG is like a human body, I am inspired that the efforts of the audit gland or system is working. The effect, the result, the product will determine, hopefully, where are the vulnerable artery, the blue and the red. We must avoid aneurysm in our endeavor. It is a deadly disease that we want to prevent. And that aneurysm site has been happening in our dear core city we call City of San Diego. There has been a continuing deficit of 80 million plus or minus year by year. Where is the money for those sick and dying and hungry victims of toxicity? Where is the money? And the audit says, here is the money. 35% only could be taken fluid from the investment of the city. The hard investors. And you could only get the 65% after a certain period of time we call maturity date. That's money. Where is that 65% in time of needs? Aneurysm, stroke, heart attack. And the leadership has practiced her city address. And those 4 tears were clapping.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Blair Beekman, you are next. Blair, you may speak.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. I just wanted to try to quickly offer for the upcoming budget year, um, concepts of responsibility, importance of responsibility. And at the transportation meeting today, they were talking about train issues, the future of a purple line train. It was interestingly brought up by a person who specializes in building your commute lines, rapid lines. He politely mentioned that rapid lines do a lot of help as we wait to build, you know, the purple line and commuter line to the airport. Bus lines do a lot of service and they offer a lot of help. And to have that conversation open, clear as we're talking about the future of our purple line and airport issues, good luck in that conversation. It'll give us kind of a grounding and how to have a conversation, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker with number ending in 731, you may speak.
All right, for the record, budgets are my least favorite thing of every single year to talk about. I mean, who wants to talk about spending a bunch of money on government when it could be going right back to the people and we could actually have it in our hands and do something real with it? Let's see, 138,000 a year per new auditor. Does seem pretty necessary though, because there's so much work. I wonder why. The outside legal counsel is a definite need. Same thing. I wonder why. And maybe because SANDAG's had past issues with trust. Oh, I hate talking about that. That always comes up. Trust, accountability, transparency, those words, those buzzwords that don't seem to have meaning for some people. I wish they did. I'm glad there was the chart provided so that everyone can see how both the city of San Diego and the county have very, very overinflated budgets. And if you look at the county, how much, it's funny, I think they are the ones that have a contract, don't have a contract with their auditor, but their auditor's been there since 2013. They only get rid of you when you go against them. SANDAG's total auditor cost is up 11.7%, and SANDAG's growing need for auditors is a reflection of its bad, corrupt performance, just like those other places. If and when things can get back on a lawful track, a non-corrupt track, a common sense track, the need for more auditors could come down. Of course, government never reverts and costs everybody less, but I would love if it still went that direction. That way, even if you have the auditors, they don't have that much work anymore. Wouldn't that be nice? So that's what I'm going to push for. And hopefully all the future audits that come out are just having everything exposed so that nobody even wants to go that route because they know it's going to get exposed when they do. That's my hope. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Great, thank you. Any committee member comments or questions? Agnes.
So, can you go back to the slide that shows the line item?
Yes.
I think the salary and benefit, yes, this one, the increase from 2,085,000 to 2,306,000, right? 10.5% increase. Is it just due to the increase in position, or does it increase annual increase, salary increase in that number?
It's the increase in positions, the two positions.
I see.
Yes,
So
but
the assumption of us annual increase is not built into this budget yet.
it should be.
Yes, so when we take the fiscal year 2026 budget, we take the salaries for people as they currently are. And then HR has an estimated escalation based on cost of living. So that would be included in each position for fiscal year 2026.
What's that assumption?
I believe it's 3% based on what they have been in the past. That's not a guarantee that that's
Right,
what it
just
would
the-
be this year.
The
It could be
cost
less.
of it.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that there's some number built in. Thank you.
Thanks, Agnes. Yeah, and as a reminder, we did have a presentation last year about the additional positions, and the request at that point was 2 more positions this year and then 2 more positions next year as well. I do think next year there will be a new audit committee, and I think it'll be worth bringing that back, and particularly in light of Measure G failing and lower anticipated revenues for the organization, whether the 2 additional positions for next year. And of course, I mean, I hope your plan works out and you have all this fully staffed by the end of the year, but you may still have 1 or 2 vacancies at the end of the year that just need to be filled too. That's just how these things work sometimes. So I do think towards the end of next year, it'd be worth another review with the audit committee at that point,
Yep.
and just keeping an update of the salary and budget. I mean, not the salary, the staffing and considerations with respect to the overall budget.
For follow-up questions,
Yeah.
since you have vacancies, what happened to those vacancies saving in the current year? Does it just get swept back to the?
Thank you, Agnes, for that question. I would actually like to take those funds and to initiate one of the HR audits through a contract. So that we're not, that way I can leverage, we continue to move forward even though we're experiencing some vacancies.
Okay. So maybe would that come back to this committee when the time comes that you would like to repurpose the funding?
Mhm.
You would, yeah.
Yes, I mean, whatever the best process would be on that. And then based on, you know, the budget as we had put it forward right now, we probably will not be able to fill all these. So that's another.
Right.
We have one, right now we have one position over based on what my comments were.
Okay, yeah, and I'm trying to remember, is the HR audit that you referred to, is that in the audit plan?
We have a succession planning audit that isn't
Right.
in the audit plan. I'm
Right.
going to, when I present for the ethical climate survey, recommend that we bring forward that audit I'm recommending from that.
Right,
in its
yeah, and
place.
that's a mechanism by which we can have this conversation. Should we be shifting these funds around to enable that? I think that would make sense.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I think it would be good that like finance, like Don and Kim can talk to us about the movement, because sometimes in some cases I've seen that we can't move staffing funds into like procurement funds. So there are some limitations. I do not know if
Okay.
in this colors of money, those rules apply, but I think it would be, it sounds easy, but with all the controls that we have in government, sometimes it doesn't allow us to do that. I'm not saying that it does or not, I don't know, but I think it will be a broader conversation on that, like you said, that possibility of swapping funds from staffing to, let's say, a procurement or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And we'll have that, we'll schedule to have that conversation with them. And then update you in February on that, on the contract potential.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the committee? Nope. Otherwise, this is a recommend, which I think the recommend is to recommend the budget, but in the overall context of the full budget, draft budget going to the board. So this one won't go separately. It's just we're going to recommend it and then it'll be included with the draft budget. And I would make such a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, second by Pickney Forrest. Go ahead and please vote.
And that item passes with the members present.
Awesome, thanks. We now move on to item 7, which is the SANDAG Ethical Climate Survey. And once again, Courtney, I'll let you take this off.
Whoops, was that me? Thank you, Chair. There we go. Okay, wonderful. I think I was clicking at the same time as you are. Sorry. Okay, I am pleased today to report on the 2024 SANDAG Ethical Climate Survey results. We conducted this in November and then tabulated the results. So what is the Ethical Climate Survey? It was created in 2006 by the Institute for Local Government, the ILG, and the International City County Management Association. This is the 4th or 5th time I've administered this survey in the role as Chief Audit Executive. The survey is designed to measure the degree to which ethical standards influence organizational and individual decision-making and helps to identify potential blind spots that may need to be addressed. The answers are assigned point values to provide a clear picture of the internal ethical culture of the agency. This does measure an employee's perception of an agency's culture at a point in time. It's grouped into 3 sections: employees, management, and elected officials. and it evaluates accountability, responsiveness, integrity, trust, fairness, communication, and leadership. We had an amazing participation result. We had 46% of SANDAG's total workforce participate in the survey. 196 employees completed the survey in its entirety. 52% provided comments on how to enhance SANDAG's ethical climate. The 2024 survey was conducted during the early stages of a leadership transition at SANDAG. So it's important as you, the reader, and you all, as the audit committee, look at the results, that you remember it's looking at a span of time in relation to the agency's leadership. The survey establishes an ethical baseline for SANDAG. Over time, it will help us to assess changes in the agency's ethical culture. This breaks out the number of survey participants by years of service with SANDAG, and you'll see that we had very good participation across all groups, and in particular, the over 10 years with SANDAG, we had 81 participate, but every group of employees, based on their longevity, participated. Additionally, based on staffing roles, we had great participation with 105 frontline staff completing the survey or starting the survey. Again, there is a portion that did not complete it, but they did do the details, and that's identified in the report. So what are the results? The results are that SANDAG has room to improve. Based on the ILG's rating scale, SANDAG shows up in the medium category. So the participants gave SANDAG an overall score of 181 out of 300. It also showed that employees' perceptions do not differ across staff roles or years of service, which is interesting. So except the newbies, the new employees rated elected officials higher than anybody else. They also rated all the categories higher, but they still stayed in the main category reference. When we look at the results, and this is all detailed in the report, you'll see what I just said here, that it was consistent with years of service on how the ratings occurred, except for elected officials, which were rated higher by the new employees, and then it was consistent across the board based on staffing level.
So trying to make sure low numbers, meaning they don't think they're very ethical, the higher the number, the
Correct. Yes, thank you for that, Agnes. A high means high ethical standard, low means low ethical standard. And in the results, we also saw a significant number of employees who reported not knowing enough to answer survey questions related to management and elected officials. This demonstrates a gap in the organization's ethical climate. So these responses could be interpreted to mean that the staff are organizationally disconnected, disengaged, or choosing not to involve themselves with management and elected officials. And we call that specifically out in the charts in the report. Employees have a myriad of opinions about SANDAG. Over 52% of the 196 survey participants, as I said earlier, provided comments on how to enhance SANDAG's ethical climate and what they would like to see changed at the agency. These comments revealed feelings about the direction of SANDAG, new leadership, the board of directors, human resources, ethics, accountability, transparency, staff capacity, and more. But those are the key 7 themes that we'll talk about. This is an exhibit from the report. It goes over every question. There's 10 questions. It tells you the average score of each question and then the ethical rating. So for employees, participants gave an overall score of 80 in this section, signaling a high ethics score. So we know that participants across all levels scored themselves as having high ethics, and that's not uncommon. This shows you a distribution of participants for section 1 responses to the statements about themselves, and going from always, almost always, sometimes, rarely to don't know. In section 2, related to SANDAG management, participants gave an overall score of 61 in this section, signaling a medium ethics score. So again, room for improvement when it comes to management. And you'll see the exact scores by question on this slide, and in particular, it's easier to read in the report. Here's the distribution of participants' responses to the statements about management. Yes, Agnes,
Can you go back to one more slide?
happy to.
That number 9 has very low number. What does that mean? That
I am going to go into that at the end,
Okay.
but what it basically means is that the participants don't think that SANDAG management is doing a good job of holding elected officials accountable in their policy lane, and they're getting involved in day-to-day operations. Here's the distribution. Then we go to section 3. Participants gave an overall score of 40 in the section, signaling a low ethics score. Again, I've seen this happen before as I've administered this, but you do, the leadership of the organization wants to heed the advice of this and see what information they can bring to then mitigate these results. We put in the percentage of respondents selecting don't know so that the reader can understand where there were clear questions where people just didn't know. But there were others that had a general, like an average don't know response. And so it's important to understand really what this message is sending in relation to the elected officials and the perceptions of the participants. Here you'll see the distribution, and again, that the black on the chart is showing those where participants said they don't know. Okay, here's where we get to the insights, and this will go to your question, Agnes. So when we look at the insights, the participants reported lower scores for SANDAG management in the following 4: creating a comfortable environment for staff to raise ethical concerns, appreciating staff who bring concerns forward, appointing and rewarding people based on their performance, refusing special treatment from those doing business with SANDAG, and a low score from SANDAG management in helping elected officials stay in their policy lane and out of the day-to-day operations. These insights are directly from the survey questions. Employees' perceptions suggest a need for SANDAG leadership to reach out to employees regularly to affirm their rights and responsibilities to report ethical concerns, to ensure a safe and responsive reporting environment, to reflect on how their actions contribute to SANDAG's ethical environment, and then perceptions regarding human resources were clear, and this also came clear in the comments that I'm going to go over. Employees expressed concerns over certain HR practices, and in response, OIPA will include a hiring and promotion practices audit in fiscal year 26 audit work plan. And in our discussion, I'd like to discuss moving this up sooner. Summary of the key themes. So participants were asked to provide comments on 2 open-ended questions. The first was, in your opinion, please describe how you would enhance SANDAG's ethical climate and culture. And if you could change one thing about SANDAG, I would change. The participants' comments, and again, we had 150, over 50% of the participants providing open-ended responses. So great participation level. 17% of the comments were each related to these 2 topics. The first theme was the trust between board of directors and staff must be repaired. And theme 2, organizational effectiveness, or HR, needs to improve practices and repair trust with employees. So again, both these topics received over 17% of the comments individually. Third in line was the theme that SANDAG is headed in the right direction, and many attribute the change to the new CEO. This was 15% of the comments reflected this. Then we had 4 remaining themes that each received 6 to 8% of the comments. Theme 4, ethics is an inside job and SANDAG's leadership must lead by example. Theme 5, more transparency and open communication regarding SANDAG's decision-making process, goals, objectives, and priorities are needed. Theme 6, all levels of the organization need to demonstrate accountability. Theme 7, SANDAG's capacity to address its workload is strained. I'll go into each theme individually. The first theme, the trust between the board of directors and staff must be repaired. The board of directors at times openly disparages SANDAG and repeats misinformation or incorrect information publicly, appearing to distance themselves from SANDAG's work, thus seeding frustration, disappointment, and mistrust with the staff. Some of the select comments in relation to this theme were: the first, I would ask the board members to recognize that staff are doing their best to deliver difficult projects, and when problems are brought to them, focus on solutions, not shooting the messenger or political agendas. Next, board politics. They adversely impact staff's morale and the work we need to do, especially when they spread misinformation and bad press in the name of accountability. They express appreciation for our work, but then sometimes use the same work against us. The last quote, acknowledge that there is an issue and that the SANDAG board has played a role in creating the culture of fear and has the power to make some real changes by working together. This theme was also expressed to me during the risk assessment this year as well. So just to give you more insight of its pervasiveness. Theme 2, organizational effectiveness. Human resources needs to improve troubling practices and repair trust with employees. This includes hiring and promotion practices, an accountable performance management system with corresponding consequences, and a reliable and ethical HR complaint process. One of the comments was, despite being a data-driven organization, performance metrics for individuals are seldom evaluated using available data, further undermining transparency and accountability. A culture that harms staff and tries to hide and silence complaints and problems through unethical means. Last comment on this section, on this theme, allow for open competition for appointments, for positions, and not appointments of positions or promotions for hand-selected individuals. Lack of consistency in hiring and promotions creates an environment of favoritism. Theme 3, SANDAG is headed in the right direction and many attribute the change to the new CEO. The first quote that we selected in this group was, I am thankful for new leadership. Previously, the agency was headed in the wrong direction. The staff are overworked and under-resourced to spend time concentrating on being deliberate with climate and culture, and it has not been a priority of past management. Next, I think it's going in the right direction. I'm new to the organization, but I'm surprised by some of the sentiments from the board and public. The staff and I work with are some of the best I've worked with. And last, the new CEO is already starting to change the culture tremendously, simply by questioning why we do what we do and not just simply taking answers at their face value. We did ask a separate question outside of the survey questions about whether participants believed that SANDAG was headed in the right direction. 64% stated that the agency was headed in the right direction. Theme 4, ethics is an inside job and SANDAG's leadership must lead by example. Employees want more practical ethics training and a safe and encouraging environment for SANDAG's employees to report wrongdoing. They want to eliminate a retaliation culture and encourage employees to speak up. Another quote was that leadership tends to discourage dissent, fostering a shoot the messenger mentality. Executives primarily seek affirmation, and those who express concern or propose alternatives frequently face professional repercussions. The culture prioritizes compliance with leadership directives over practicality and advisability. And then last, there's a difference between being encouraged and expected to doing something and actually feeling comfortable in doing it. Theme 5. More transparency and open communication is needed regarding SANDAG's decision-making processes, goals, objectives, and priorities. There is becoming more of an outright emphasis on transparency, which is good, end quote. I would encourage leadership to be more considerate of the day-to-day work that frontline employees face. This means reviewing things in a timely manner, being transparent with their goals, critiques, and decision-making processes. When there are non-communicative, it erodes the trust between the employees and their managers. And the last quote on this slide is, I would enhance SANDAG's ethical climate and culture by promoting transparent decision-making, encouraging open communication across all levels, and ensuring that ethical training and resources are accessible and regularly updated. Theme 6, all levels of the organization need to demonstrate accountability. This includes the board of directors, executive management, and department directors in setting expectations and tones, owning roles and responsibilities, taking responsibility for the results, and collectively working together to move SANDAG forward. The first quote, the us versus them mentality. This is apparent not only within the agency, such as between departments, but also between staff and the board of directors and elected officials. Next, we should try to foster more of an attitude of cooperation and teamwork between departments. And the last quote, the leaders need to learn long-term success comes from blending efforts to complete tasks with efforts to develop people who are needed to complete the task. People who feel valued and feel they are part of the positive effort will stay longer and will help develop others on the team. The last theme, theme 7, SANDAG's capacity to address its workload is strained. Evaluate SANDAG's capacity to ensure the organization can effectively meet its mandates, special projects and requests, and the demands of process improvements while retaining and investing in its staff. The first quote, our established headcount to carry out all the work on our plate, is it the right amount? Next quote, the thinking that we can continue the same heavy workload without adding additional resources. For years, staff has been overworked and overwhelmed. This has led to frustration and a lack of work-life balance. It has also led to an increased attrition rate. I believe that this philosophy has also contributed to a potential lack of ethics in order to deliver results faster. And the last featured quote, I would change how overworked staff is. Most of us are stretched to the limit with little capacity to take on new extra work or implement process improvements. So what does it mean? This chart from ILG tells you based on a high, medium, or low rating what their recommendations are. You saw in each section that you went from employees being rated high, management being rated medium, elected officials being rated low, and then the overall rating for medium. So it goes through what the recommendations would be here. For medium, it would be to evaluate the areas of weakness and then consider targeted remedial actions, analyze the messages that staff and others receive and send about ethics, review the agency's policies, including the criteria by which staff are evaluated, and last, consider whether having a code of ethics would be helpful for the agency. What are the next steps? First, the results are to be discussed today with you all, the audit committee. Next, the results will be presented at SANDAG's Board of Directors meeting next Friday. As I just read from ILG's recommendations, the board and management should consider evaluating the areas of weakness indicated by the survey tool and considered targeted remedial actions. OIPA will include a hiring and promotions practice audit in next year's audit work plan. OIPA is also initiating the Let's Talk Ethics lunch series beginning this quarter. I will host guest speakers, and we will also go over interesting case studies. We also are rolling out a new third-party 24/7 whistleblower hotline program that will be web-based and a call center to take complaints, and we will go over and present to this committee how that works once we get it up and running. And then in 18 months, we will do a follow-up survey so we can report on any changes in SANDAG's ethical climate. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm glad that we got this done, but I was first wondering if there are any elected officials wandering the halls. I feel a little exposed being the only elected right now. But with that, we'll start, Cammie, with any public comment on this.
Yes. Yes, we have one in-person speaker and two online. Cesar Javier will be in person, followed by phone number ending in 731.
Uncle Cesar, this is not competition. This is all about piloting. Leadership is the substance. It was mentioned many times, leadership. And the hardest of all is really your capacity to lead, to set the example, continuing development of oneself, employing your force according to their capability. Train them as one. And that's the failure of our educational system because we were not trained to work together. China is sending their people to Mars. When the allies of America, the same thing. If we could only work together, Sir Mario and our honorable chair, withstand the challenge of leadership. I think those are the parameter, one of the parameter, which is the major one, the acme of this survey. And we want a product that would herald, hey, SANDAG is great, it's working, it's on the right direction. But is it really a picture showing that submerged volume, keeping the iceberg floating? That's the survey that we must look at, the intangible, the power that makes the worker alongside with that direction. How is this physical body? How is his intellect?
Thank you. Your time has expired. The next speaker will be phone number ending in 731. You may now speak.
All right, I enjoyed laughing at the SANDAG short bus graphic. Did anyone notice the words public and needs are both really small? Everyone said that the elected officials deserved a low score. Of course they did. Generally, people think management is somewhere in the middle, and that's partly a reflection from the transition from head Soviet Hassan to Mario. I appreciate the distinguishing between new employees and longtime employees. Something needs to be done so people know where to turn for advice about ethical issues. It seems some employees may feel coerced or intimidated by certain elected or appointed officials. I can understand that fine line. For management, the environment's been toxically uncomfortable. There's also seems to be a problem of politics, unequitable treatment, a lack of promotions based on merit rather than connections, other special treatment, particularly for business stakeholders. Elected officials are seemingly unhappy with everything. I'm concerned about the ethicalness of question 9 on page 37 that claims that there's reasonable members of the public, because then I would ask who isn't reasonable. There's a better way to ask such a question. I actually think there should be a public ethical climate survey too. Is this not a publicly funded agency? All those times I got 60 seconds to speak, I wasn't exactly able to get into the weeds with my own personal experiences because I've seen a lot of what was described. The theme 1 comments were dead on. What's missing in theme 3? It's not just Mario, it's people like Sean and Nora being gone. Real talk. There needs to be more people gone, in fact. A code of conduct and a code of ethics are both necessary, along with leadership and workplace training, and that includes de-escalation training. Michael Brando has been saying theme 4 for a long time. Ethics is an inside job. Change yourself, change your surroundings. How to get an ethical climate from the get-go. Choose to vote for people based on character, not how they look, not how their name sounds, not what their face looks like, not their charismatic personality or their beliefs. It's how do they treat people when there's no camera around? Do they actually follow through on what they say? That's the start. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair Beekman, you are next.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this report. Good luck in these continuing efforts. I've tried to describe often the work I do with tech accountability, first brought on by the ACLU in 2014, technically. But they've done some really amazing good work. They have guidelines, practicing examples, and legal precedents that can really help define clarity and bring a certain amount of accountability. It's like our decent best selves that this stuff works towards. And it can be really helpful in how you're talking about the future of your ethics practices. I mean, I'm really amazed at what the ACLU tech accountability practices can offer. I mean, it's not just tech accountability. It offers, for exactly things like this, and just overall, just better ways of practicing government. I was a bit worried this report wouldn't be offering that. Theme 4 seemed to offer that pretty well, and theme 5. So thank you for that. It was of interest that spoke of board persons themselves being a bit out of line in how to talk with about these issues with staff better and with the media better. But there is also the overriding concern that staff, we're just in a place where we don't know how to talk about these practices better and work on these things better. Theme 4 tried to do that. Good luck on that continuing effort to do that. It's really important. And I will really miss Nora. I think, she had a grasp of UN issues, working directly with the UN. We really need it. And how we can talk about the future of the Trump administration, we really needed her voice. So it'll be sad she's gone. Good luck in the changes we will be doing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and that concludes our public speakers.
Great, thanks. Committee members, anybody? Shanae.
So I had a two-part question in regards to the insights, one of the insights.
Yep.
It's in regards to helping elected officials stay in their policy lane and out of day-to-day operations. So the two-part question is, one, can you provide a little bit of context of where respondents thought electeds were kind of stepping out of their lane, if that was in fact in the report? And then two, I'm also interested in whether or not there were any indications that respondents feel as if there's potential conflict of interest, or if they feel as though there's undue pressure by electeds against them to bypass like internal controls for the electeds' improper activity.
So on your first question, there is not comment in relation to particular examples of management helping electeds stay in their lane. That is a direct question on the management section, section 2. The question is help elected officials work within their policy roles and stay out of the day-to-day work of agency. So there isn't data by participants behind that. That is a question, and then they respond to it. On the second, in relation to conflict of interest, no, we did not see anything in the comments of saying these particular things were happening. However, we do see in the insights, and this is a low medium score about, I'm gonna read it so I phrase it properly. Refusing special treatment from those doing business with SANDAG. So again, that was a direct from the survey questions. What I love about this survey is you've got the survey data, which is tabulated, but it is the open-ended questions that then inform that. So while quotes are selected, they're selected to represent the overall of those themes. And that is where you really see the consistent thread. So every comment is categorized based on what is being said in that comment, and that's how we tabulate into those themes. So when we talk about, well, that question says whether management is holding electeds in their lane, right? The other side of that is that we have an issue of a strained relationship between the board and staff. And I see those as somewhat working together. There was a quote, I don't know if it is in here. It may be in the report. I don't think it's on the slide. Yep, that's it. It's on page 14. It's the last quote we feature. I would ask the board to lower the temperature and for leadership to filter the board politics more. So staff is saying, is asking for assistance, and that's how I see that.
Agnes.
I assume this is the first time that SANDAG has done this type of survey, so this will be our baseline
Yes.
year, okay? The questions, I assume, is modeled after other existing survey, or was it specifically designed for?
This is consistent. We don't modify the questions. They have been all the times I've administered, this is the questions, and you tabulate based on that. I will note, as one of the public commenters mentioned, there's probably some areas where we could address the language a little.
So other agencies have done a similar survey like
Yes.
this. So I'm wondering, how are our numbers compared to other agencies? Because I think there might be some, respondents bias, right? So employees, of course, they think they're, evaluating themselves, probably think that, I'm sure if you ask the elected official, are they ethical, they would think they're very ethical.
Yeah.
too. So maybe there's a little bit of bias of how the responses are. So I was just curious if there's any way to normalize the data, like compared to other agencies, like this kind of ratio is standard, then maybe we are not worse. Or maybe, those numbers are very different and maybe that's telling, right? So I'm just wondering if there's any one more step we can do with this.
I hear you. And I would say in my experience is that it's typical for employees to rate themselves higher. So what you see in that of the green, it is typical that the elected officials get rated lower. So, that's where you really have to look at the data and also then the themes that come through. And my concern about, there's no other agency like SANDAG that in order to do a comparison, I can just give you insights because I've administered it so many times that yes, those aspects are similar, right? And then I think it is, but even with the similarities, it is a very important ethics message for the different groups to look at, and I had the opportunity to talk to the staff yesterday at the biweekly briefing as well and just make a few comments. And one of the comments I said is, with ethics, you have to hit ethics head on. You can't mince words. I mean, that's why we try to present, here are the results, here's what the feedback is. Because I think that's when we can see change, is to really understand the temperature in the agency.
So I was hoping maybe there's some more aggregated data somewhere out there and say, well, all these surveys out there, employees always rated themselves around 80 and then management 60s and then elected 40, and then our numbers are more in line or not, right? Maybe that's one way to look at it. Or another way is just, say this is baseline year. We don't really know what it means.
Yep.
18 months from now to see if there's any changes. But after, additional efforts being made to, enhance communication or things like that, and see if it can change anything. I mean, that's maybe another approach. Because, this is great, eye-opening to do a survey, but we also want to make it useful, right?
Yes.
Rather than just say, hey, this is what it said, that elected officials are not ethical. I mean, that's not very helpful, to anyone.
Anybody else? Yeah, I guess we can at least take consolation that the ethical or the elected officials did better than general representation of the U.S. Congress. So we're beating somebody. Anyway, yeah, just a couple of comments for me to add as well. You know, there was a fair amount, and this is something that I had to battle as my term on chair, which is there's a fair amount of discussion of, you know, the various board members misrepresenting things and thus creating tension with staff. And that was a very real issue. And one of the things that were often misrepresented was audit results. And, you know, I got in the habit of then going to the board meetings and trying to be very clear. And I think that needs to continue about the audit results, and something that, you know, I talked early about this on with Courtney, and something that she's done, which I think is a good practice to continue as well, which is to issue a summary press release of audits that look at least controversial, potentially controversial, you know, very clearly outlining the findings and even more specifically, what wasn't found, just so to try to help mitigate that. And there may be other ideas that could be done, but I think both of those need to continue in order to make sure, because unfortunately, I don't think politics is getting any cleaner anytime soon. And just making sure that we do our best, and having someone at the board reminding them that by misrepresenting the results of the audits, that they are harming this agency and making it more difficult to get things done. Just calling them and holding them accountable on that, I think, is important. And hopefully whoever is continuing to lead this group, that'll be, again, part of my handoff whenever I come to handing off this role is an important thing to do. Any other comments or thoughts? Or otherwise, this is an item to recommend to send to the board. Do I have a motion? Moved by Wong Nickerson,
I second.
a second by Pickney Forrest. Please vote.
This item passes with the members present.
Excellent. And that brings us to our last item, which is the San Diego County Grand Jury Report. There is no presentation here, I believe. This is primarily here just as a discussion item to accept your feedback, which we can get into on it, and knowing that management will also be working on a response, which will be going to the board, I believe, the draft response on the 31st. And then we will also probably then bring the finalized or nearly finalized response back to this meeting on our 7th before it actually goes out to the grand jury for any final catches. So I will first start with public comment on this topic, which is, you know, largely with the attachment on the grand jury report. Tammy, can you please call any public speakers?
Yes, we have one in-person public speaker followed by 2 online. Caesar, please come to the microphone. You'll be followed by Blair Beekman.
I have not really learned about the report, but with our experience, I must declare the packet that we have submitted to SANDAG all about toxicity, unintended consequences, hurting us, is now channeled to what I perceive now as ethical commission, a semblance of ethical board that will determine the unethical failure of one party. And that is the institution allegedly committed by SANDAG. If I am not, if I may say right or wrong, but that's my observation. We lodge the report now to the same grand jury we perceive as the judge to determine the violation, if I may say, unethical conduct, efficiency as the benchmark. So that is my introduction, actually. that would really determine whether SANDAG is on the right track. The limit in the pursuance of that godly mission, connecting humans to the shell.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Blair Beekman, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thank you for this item. To comment on the, add on to the previous comment from the chair on the previous item. Thanks for his words. Yeah, I'm hopeful that I think auditing, when it's done well, it provides a really important service for government and community. So good auditing practices just really brings out a really good process. And I think we have a really good new CEO, Mario, who I'm really hopeful in how his previous accounting skills will be used in a really good way, a decent way. So I'm hopeful that we really can be working at best practices things. To note also in all our work towards accountability that we'll have to be doing at this time, good luck in the ideas of public participation and just really including the public in all parts of the process. And that doesn't have to be fearful. We have a fearful public community at this time. Good luck how we bring that together in-house because everyone knows each other. It's just a matter of how to bring down the tension level a bit. And good luck how we can be doing that. Because people have good ideas, just a matter of how they can bring those ideas across. Good luck on our efforts. I had one more thing I wanted to offer, but I can't quite think of it this time. Just thanks a lot for the meeting today. Oh, and good luck again with wildfire issues happening in LA. You're going to get a lot of crazy things coming around your way in the next few months. Also with the new Trump administration coming in. Good luck on practicing austerity, responsibility, respect for the process, and don't go crazy on project ideas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Caller ending in 731. You may go ahead.
All right, there we go. The current grand jury has a theme. They always give their reports funny names, they often report on nonsense, and their conclusions often seem political. They claim SANDAG Bay, one county MPO. What about Mexico and tribal nations participation? They reviewed from 2020, but there's been many problems since at least 2016. They did mention the misrepresentation, aka lies, about how much the Measure A tax would bring in, but they didn't think there was a problem when public records were deleted under Gallegos. They didn't look into who was behind 2018's AB 805 and how that could have been a conflict of interest, a la Lorena and Nathan. I'm glad they included the undeserved severance payouts, sole source monopolized contracts, and the 125 toll fiasco. But they missed the tax-refunded trips and lunches, and they said nothing about how previous audits were blocked by the previous CEO. And there's a long list. If I thought for a long time, I could have an even longer list. I appreciate their 1960s history about comprehensive planning organization. Interesting how totalitarianism takes unlawful baby steps to gain regional power. I'm sure they want to consolidate further than that at some point. They're accurate to point out that other publicly funded agencies have the people at the top of the organizational chart like it should be. Everyone already knows that the council reporting to the CEO is an issue, hence the independent lawyers. The report says the grand jury interviewed with SANDAG members. Who exactly? And what does the grand jury know about workplace culture? They don't mention anything about the board members themselves being an issue because they were and are. I can like somebody like Nora and also find that proper leadership was lacking under her reign. A wise uncle once referred to toxicity and unintended consequences hurting us. There we have SANDAG. And we also have the grand jury who pretends they know what's going on and pretends that they're giving some new solutions to long existing problems they have failed to previously address. So I'm hungry now. I ate some meat yesterday and the planet survived. Wow. So who knows what I'll eat next. But thank you for this meeting full of great meaty topics.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Okay. Sure, Mario, go ahead.
I just wanted to highlight the main themes that the grand jury came up, because a lot of them were tackling them jointly with this committee, with OIPA, and, staffing for OIPA. I think you just had a robust discussion on that. The general counsel discussion. We right now have a consulted general counsel directly reporting to the board. The board has asked us to have that discussion, evaluating different models on what's happening and seeing what could happen if the internal general counsel either reports to them, reports to the CEO, or it's a parallel reporting structure. Independence Council for OIPA, that's in the process also. The correction action plans, we have them, we're tracking them. Yes, sometimes we're behind. My goal is to be on time, but we are tracking them and updating those correction action plans. We're also in the same token dealing with it. So it's not good for the agency what came out, but it also is positive that there were no surprises. All the things that came out are being taken care of and being dealt with. So that's my comment that I had. And, it can expand more. Can it be better? Yes. Can it be faster? Yes. Is there room for improvement? Yes. But were there things that were like a humongous surprise that we need to work on? No. Everything has been identified.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add on a little bit that, I mean, I think you'll find as Mario commented on, is that most of the recommendations are actually reasonable recommendations that have already been in process. But with respect to the findings, they all have a bit of truth to them, but some of them aren't quite right on. As an example, the finding that says we don't regularly review the corrective action plan. Well, those of us in the audit committee know that that comes here every year. We review it every year, the status of the corrective action plans, and so that actually is getting done. And so we will be providing that kind of feedback as we formulate this response, which you'll see in the next meeting. But I don't know if Courtney, if you wanted to add anything, or we just wanted to go to comments.
I think comments,
Okay.
really.
So if you guys have any comments of things that you'd like to make sure that we would capture, or any thoughts, feel free to jump in. But just wanted to give you that opportunity before we, start finalizing a draft response on this.
I do, really just for my own benefit, did they actually come on site to do the audit, or they just get information from
So,
the public?
Yeah, largely they just requested interviews, and people went down to the grand jury building and got interviewed at their location. There wasn't anybody on site here, to the best of my knowledge.
And then were you able to, before they issued the final report, were you given a chance to review it and say, hey, there's some factually inaccurate things?
No, that's not how the grand jury works.
Okay, I see. Okay, so this is really their findings
Yes.
from their perspective, right?
Correct.
The management has not had a chance to weigh in yet. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay.
Any
And then, yeah, I agree with you. There's certain things that just jump down and say, I don't think it's factually accurate. So as long as we have a way to respond to it, yeah.
Yeah, we do. Other comments or questions?
Yeah,
Shantae?
my only question is timeline, just in terms of when we're giving our response and kind of what the next steps would be.
And I'll lean a little bit with our legal counsel, but we have 90 days from the date of issuance. I don't know, Amberlyn, if you want to expand on that.
That's correct. The agency is required to provide a response within 90 days. I believe, as the chair mentioned, this is scheduled to go in front of the board at its January 31st meeting. And then thereafter coming back here to the audit committee, at which point we will ensure that the formal response gets to the grand jury on time.
And I believe 90 days is sometime in February, if I recall. Yeah, okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, thanks for staying over a little bit. That concludes the agenda. Our next meeting will be the regular scheduled meeting, regular time, February 7th at 9 a.m. Looking forward to seeing everybody there, and Hope everybody has a good couple of weeks until then. We're adjourned.
Couple of weeks from now.